Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. It is September 17th, 2018. Thank you for joining me for another climate change and clean energy video blog. Now for this segment, I am going to talk a bit about our situation when it comes to climate change as it relates to the politics of climate change denial and climate change response intransigence and failure to respond and overall irresponsible action on the part of political leaders that are held in thrall by the fossil fuel interests in the United States and around the world. And primarily, I'd just like to say that this situation of systemic climate change denial is one, what has gotten us to where we are now, where we see the impacts of human-caused climate change occurring around the world at increasingly dangerous levels, as evidenced by the widespread Northern Hemisphere heat waves and extreme heat events of this summer, as well as increasingly severe storms such as Hurricanes Florence and Mangkhut, which have resulted in catastrophic damages on both sides of the globe. These storms, enhanced by rising sea surface temperatures and rising atmospheric water vapors due to overall human-forced climate change primarily driven by fossil fuel burning. Now, we've talked before about how certain political interests associated with fossil fuel burning, in particular, the Trump administration, are fighting to open the floodgates for more fossil fuel emissions, thus increasing the damage, both short and long and medium term, of human-caused climate change. In particular, I'd like to call your attention to an editorial that was provided by the editorial board of the New York Times yesterday that drills down into some of the irresponsible policies produced by the Trump administration, but also talks about a coalition of the willing that is working to counter these bad actions, which is absolutely necessary now at the present time if we are to confront human-caused climate change. Oftentimes, people who promote climate action lament at how intransigent climate change deniers are, at how irresponsible they are, about how much we need to do to convince climate change deniers to do the right thing. In my opinion, that you're not going to get the bad actors to change on net. What you have to do as individuals and what we have to do as local cities and states and communities is do everything that we can in our power to make the change and to remove those from power who have counterfactual views that only serve a certain very narrow economic interest, but that hurt everyone at every level by worsening the impacts of human-caused climate change. I'm just going to go ahead and read a quote from this article. I'm going to provide the link for you, and I encourage you to read it in total. It provides a snapshot of the present situation, as well as providing, in my opinion, an implied call to action, showing what we can do now, despite the fact that the climate change denying Trump administration and enabling climate change denying and climate, in my opinion, climate lunatics in the form of the Republican Party in Washington are producing terrible policies and terrible policy rollbacks. So the opinion piece notes, as if this past summer of merciless heat waves, droughts, and megafires were not warning enough, in the past several days the elements sounded another alarm about the state of a world made warmer by the burning of fossil fuels. It came in the form of a 1-2 punch of wind and rainfall from Hurricane Florence, which, like Hurricane Harvey a year ago, has derived much of its wallop from unusually warm ocean waters and stalled weather systems linked to climate change. Supercharged is the word one prominent scientist, Dr. Michael Mann, used to describe Florence, echoing the findings of the Federal Global Change Report in 2014 that, along with the rise of other extreme weather events, hurricane intensity and rainfall are projected to increase as the climate continues to warm. The article goes on to point out that the Trump administration is now producing a compounding set of negative impacts to include, and this is policy related, and policy is extraordinarily important, include the rollback of CAFE standards, the rollback of Obama's Clean Power Plan, and the relaxation of methane emission standards from leaky pipes. In combination, all of these new standards that were produced by the Obama administration, which was a pro-climate action administration, would have reduced United States greenhouse gases by 26 to 28% by 2025. So without action, without response from cities, states, localities, businesses, and other good actors, these Trump administration policy responses will result in a net increase in greenhouse gases by the United States, which will help to fuel worsening climate change, which will slow down clean energy incentives, and overall put us further and further behind the proverbial 8 ball when it comes to human-caused climate change. But it's worth noting that according to the opinion piece, which I'm going to cite, Governor Jerry Brown, Michael Bloomberg, and 4,000 other climate leaders in a global climate change action summit, including a coalition of the willing, are now providing rules and laws and policies that are intended to counteract this bad action by the Trump administration. And that these goals by states and localities could result in the achievement of 2/3 of Obama's clean energy and carbon emission reductions goals by 2025, despite bad action by the Trump administration. And this is what we talk about when we talk about resistance, about the necessity to resist bad action at the highest levels of government at present by actors such as businesses, such as states, such as cities, who are all under the gun of human-caused climate change. Every one of us now is staring down the barrel of worsening impacts, and each of us now that are aware and that are concerned and that are not willing to give up our power to harmful fossil fuel interests have the ability to act, and we can act. Not only can we replace the harmful Trump administration at the federal level, but we can also reduce the damage that they are causing now. So I encourage you to read this op-ed opinion piece by the New York Times editorial board entitled "Nature Roars, Washington Hears Nothing." But I also encourage you to think about what you can do to support those elements among us who are promoting climate action and climate response, and to support the political parties, primarily the Democratic Party, which support climate change response. Thank you for joining me, and I will be chatting with you soon.